In this segment, we're going to talk about targeting a journal. So, once you decided you'd like to move forward and write something and get it published, where are you going to get it published? What are your options? What are some things to consider? So, what I want to lay out for you is this approach that a lot of people take, which is ready, fire. They're ready to do the work, and so they start writing. What I want to encourage you to do is take a ready, aim, fire. That aim piece is so often overlooked. Aiming means that you're going to target. You're going to get the journal in your sights. You're going to figure out what your target is. You're going to do a little bit of research. You're going to take a little bit of time with it before you pull the trigger, before you start the work, before you do the try again method that we talked about in the earlier segment. So, aiming. Let's talk about aiming, right? My suggestion to you is that you use this little formula that I like called GRASP. GRASP. Each one of these elements in GRASP stands for a different word. So G is goal. What is your goal? What's the goal of the journal? Do they match? That's a good indication right away. Role. What is your current role? Are you an instructor? Are you an assistant or associate professor? Are you a research professor? Does your role match the targeted role of the journal? Audience. Who is your audience? Is your audience practitioners, professionals? Is it the academic community? Is it the lay community? Does your intended audience match the journal's audience? Next, situation. Are you working on civil engineering, perhaps? And you're looking at doing a case analysis of a bridge and water sewer project, perhaps. Does that situation fit the situation that the journal includes in its publications? Is a case analysis appropriate? Is this nature of a case analysis appropriate? Does the situation match? And then lastly, performance. Are the performance expectations of the journal aligned with what your performance expectations are or what your intended performance is? If they have a very short timeline or a very long timeline, does that match your timeline? If they want very few words or very many words or a limitation on tables or unlimited tables, does that match your own performance expectations? So these are 5 things to consider when you're targeting a journal. Let's move on. I love this quote from American author John Steinbeck. In writing, your audience is one single reader. I've found that sometimes it helps to pick out that one person, a real person you know, or an imagined person, and write to that one. This can be helpful as you're developing your scholarly writing project or working on your writing, is to think about that one reader who's going to consume your work. Whether it be a graduate student, an undergraduate student, a faculty member, a researcher, a community or layperson, or industry, governmental bureaucrat, or politician. Who's going to be reading your work, and kind of keep them in mind as you're walking through it. Tell the story just for them. So, what's the right journal? You've gone through the GRASP method and you still have a number of journals that would work for you. So, how do you narrow it down to look at which one is right for you? Some suggestions. First, you can consult guides. Many journals have a guide that goes with them that talks about what the journal is, what it does. Some disciplines have guides. There are also reference lists that are maintained sometimes by the library, sometimes by a discipline, sometimes by a publisher of the different journals and kind of what their focus is on. Some academic journals have indices. You could go through those. That could be very helpful to you. You could talk to your colleagues and mentors, see where they publish. Ask them if that would be a good place for you to try to publish as well. You could go to the library, talk to a librarian, or just browse the stacks and see what you see. You could look at your associations, your professional associations, your membership organizations, and see if they have journals that they use. If it's a well-affiliated association for you, this could be a good avenue to go down in terms of publication. And then lastly, just kind of browse online. It never hurts to just Google journal and then your topics and see what comes up. You'd be surprised sometimes at the new things that are out there or the different things that you hadn't previously considered. So those are just some suggestions. Some other things to keep in mind as you're targeting a journal are the deadlines. What's realistic? What's not necessarily realistic? And when we talk about deadlines, it's not just when do you have to get your manuscript in. It also includes how long will it take for them to review it? What's their deadline? From the time you submit your initial manuscript to the time that it actually gets published, what's that timeline look like? Keep in mind who the editor is, what type of work they do. Many editors may edit more than one publication. How much time can they devote to this? Who's on the editorial board? That could be helpful for you too. It would be terrible to have a theoretical analysis article or a synthesis paper that you're going to submit and come to find out there's a member of the editorial board who, is your theoretical arch rival who would never let that fly in the journal. Well, that would be helpful to know that in advance. Their publication guidelines could be very helpful to know. Like I said before, page limitations, graph or chart limitations, how many citations you are required to have. They may have a minimum and or a maximum. Circulation data, so how many people are actually looking at this journal. That could be helpful for you. Manuscript topics. What types of things are they looking at? A lot of journals have special issues where they kind of focus in on one thing, maybe sustainability, maybe globalization, and maybe you could fit into one of those topics, or that might, if they've got those topics coming up, that might give you extra time before you submit because you're not going to hit that topic. And then their general objectives. Most of the journals are going to publish these for you to help you out. So hopefully these are helpful suggestions and topics and things to keep in mind when you are looking at what journal you want to target. As always, if you have questions or comments, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.